Hello everyone, this is Josh Castle from the Monroe County Public Library, and I'm here to talk to you about another piece of digital creativity at home software that can be used for free. This time I'm talking about Inkscape. It's available from inkscape.org, and as you can see from the website here, it is a drawing program, and it's specifically designed to create vector images. So if you're not familiar with vector images, you can think of if you've ever been typing something on the computer and you want to make your font bigger. Let's say you have font 2 and you change it to font 200. You'll notice that whenever you make your font bigger, it doesn't become blurry or distorted. That's because the computer is actually mathematically defining what that shape looks like, and that's called a vector image. So if you've ever had an image, let's take a look at this adorable picture of my cat Gaston, and you stretch it too far, or you zoom in too far, you begin to see the pixels and distortion of the image. And that's because this is made out of a finite amount of pixels. It's not a vector image. What we want to do in Inkscape is create something that is vector. So what I'm going to do, having installed this program on my Mac here, is open up the program, and I'm going to trace the image that I want to create into a vector, and tracing over the top of it in new layers, I'll be able to layer those details and create a scalable vector image. So with that in mind, let's open up the program, and let me just go ahead and size this to be full screen. And I think I had some preferences still set here, so I'll close those windows real quick. But once we open up the screen here, you'll see some windows on top, some menus on the side, and menus on the other side, color palette on the bottom. Now, the most important things on here are these tools on the left, and probably the color palettes. Now, there's certainly important tools all around here, but let's say you're making a page, and this gives you a template for a page here. You can kind of use this to visualize, and you can zoom in, and you can make text, you can add graphics, and you can create a publication. So if you're doing like a handout or something like that, this is a good resource to do that in. So it's a good alternative to Publisher. But since it's focused on vector images, we can also do some artistic things as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to actually remove this little template. I don't need to know where the page outline ends, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off by going to File, Document Properties, and then disabling Show Page Border. And you can see it got rid of that. That way you don't have that in the way. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my Fills and Strokes menu and my Layers menu. So Layers is probably like you expect it if you've used another program that makes use of layers. This works like that. So there's a bottom layer, and then layers above those show in priority order. Now the fills and strokes are maybe unfamiliar as well. If you make a shape, the fill is actually the interior color, and the stroke is, let's say it's the border around this color. So the fill is this blue, and the stroke on this is actually not set. You can see this X here, that means it's not set, but if we set it, and it's set to black, I believe. Let's go ahead and make sure that it's black. Oh, I changed the fill, not the stroke. Let's change the fill back to, let's just change it to green. And then the stroke, which we have set as black, let's go ahead and make that very thick so you can see it. Let's change it to 2 millimeters and then zoom in. So you can see that now we have an edge on here, and that's because we set a stroke. And this is useful for situations where you want to have a border that, that kind of emphasizes the shape that you're making. And if you want to remove the fill, then you just have that border with an empty inside. So that said, I'm actually just going to change this back to default, change this to no stroke, and then leave the fill on. And then I'm going to delete my square, because what I want to do is import an image. So I'm going to go to File, Import, and we're going to find the image that we're going to trace. So this is my downloads, and it is this image right here. I got it from unsplash.com. It's a very good resource for free images that you can use for art purposes like this. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see this. It's a pretty cool looking chameleon guy here. And what we're going to do is use these tools here, like I said, to trace over this and make a vector. So the first thing we probably want to do is lower the opacity of the bottom layer. And to do that, I'm just going to scroll down in the layers menu and turn this right down. Then I'm going to create another layer above this, and I'm going to use this layer to start drawing on the lowermost details. And to keep things organized, I'm probably going to take a look at this color here. So this is kind of like a burnt orange. I'm just going to change this to orange, and then it's the outer part of the eye, so I'm going to say orange outer. Hit that. And then what I'm going to do is take the pen tool, or the Bezier curve tool, and start drawing that curve around the eye. And to use this tool, you click down, you go to some other point on the circle, and you hold that click down, and you start to stretch it and pull it. It's a little bit difficult to use at first, but you will slowly get the hang of it. And you know what? Sometimes it pays off to make the curve a little bit shorter. So let's go ahead and apply it. And I'm going to hit Control Z. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, just so I can get a better look at this. And I'm going to make that curve a little bit shorter. So I think that that's going to work here. Hit Enter to place it. And then click this little thing that says Handle to Cusp Node. This is a node. This is where the end of your line is. It's on both sides. And if you click on that, you actually continue the original line. So that's what we want to do. So let's go ahead and move this up here. And I'm going to make this. And it doesn't have to be exact or perfect. So that's pretty close to where I want it. And then go ahead and finish out this eye here. And do this one finally. Bring these two together. Make this circle. Hit return. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed through and do that again. So let's do this on the inner part. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. Let's go ahead and make another layer because it's important to maintain organization, and it'll be easier to layer these things later on. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to cut away here, and you might see me fast forward. I'm just going to go in and do a bunch of these circles, working into the inside. And like I said, it's just clicking down, moving it around until you get a curve, hitting Enter to apply. Okay, so I'm back here. Now, a couple of things you might have noticed in that fast forward is that I did make a few mistakes, but that's why Control Z or Command Z is your friend. One thing that I forgot was making new layers for my new objects here. So each of these new things, I wanted to make a new layer. So I went back and redid that, and I added this iris part in here too. So now I have everything really nice and named, and that'll make things easier. And what I'm going to do now is just add in a circle for the actual iris. And you know what, I can call this iris 1, doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is make a circle for the inner part of the eye, the iris here. And I'm going to say that that's pretty good. And I'm going to change the color to black. Now what I can do is go through and start adding colors to each of these layers. So let's do that real quick. And the way that we do that is go to the layer that you want to add color to. And we go to this orange outer. And in my strokes and fills menu, I'm going to have to select the outer ring first that's on that layer. that's why this naming is very important. So I know that this is the only object on this layer, and I'm going to change the fill to a solid color, and you see that it turns black, and that's just because that's what default color I had on there, so it's not a big deal. What I'm going to do is go to my wheel and start working toward an orange color. So I'm going to spin the wheel. My wheel will spin. And I'm going to make it to this burnt orange color. And you might notice some areas where it kind of misses things here. If it does, all you need to do is click on that, on the part where it missed it, and then hit this, in the fill menu, go ahead and hit this flat color button again. So you can see that little square that it missed there, if I Command Z. You see it misses this little sliver here. I just need to click this, and it fills it in. So I'm going to go up to this next layer, which I think I wanted to make green. And I can go ahead and hide the orange outer layer, just to make things a little bit easier. And now I know that I have this inner ring here, and I want this to be, let's make this a dark green color. So let's go ahead and click that. And I'm going to go ahead and move this to a green and make it a little bit darker. And remember, all I need to do with this is click that spot that it missed, click the flat color button. Now I can hide that. Go to the inner eye, which I have named inner green 1. Now I know that I'm working with this object. I'm going to hit the fill button again, flat color. I'm going to change this to a slightly different color of green. Let's make it lighter. And then hide that. Next I have this iris color. So this is actually the background of the eye. So it's probably poorly named. But that doesn't matter. I'm going to pick that, do a fill-in color, and this time I'm going to make it this whitish type color. And I'm going to leave the eye iris, the actual iris, black. Then what I'm going to do is actually show all these layers again. And now you're starting to see the eye come together. Let's zoom out a little bit. So you can see that I've made the eye of this chameleon. And that's actually going to be a vector. So where you zoom in on the chameleon and get this blurry screen here, you can see that no matter how much I zoom in on the parts of the eye that I've traced over, oops, I'm hitting the wrong button. Let me try that again. No matter how close I get, you can't see any of that distortion. That's because there's none there. It's a vector image. It's being, mathematically defined, where the rest of the image is not. And now I can go through and hide these things once again. And let's add one more layer, some eye detail. And for this, I'm going to zoom in again. I'm going to go one above this iris layer. Make a new thing. Let's just do details for the name. Click add. And I'm going to fill in these little squares here, or these little line areas. And what I'm going to do is just make some rough outlines with the pencil tool. I'm going to turn off the smoothing because I want to do freehand drawing. So there's the smoothing option up here. And probably one thing I want to do as well, that'll make things easier, is click this little button on the right hand side, which turns off snapping. So it will stop the line from trying to automatically connect to others that are close to it. So I'm going to just trace around these and then do the same process for the fills and strokes that I did, adding colors to the inside. So you'll see me trace these, and then I'll add colors. So hold still for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, now with that done, I'm going to go ahead and change the fills. And now that I have those set, I'm going to zoom out again. And you'll notice that I did take some creative licensing in terms of the colors and the shapes on his eye. And that's just to give it, a little bit more pop. You can be as accurate as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and enable all these. And there you have it. So you can see how I've made these layers, kept them organized, and applied different colors to create this chameleon eye and trace a vector graphic. Now what I can do is go through and retrace this entire thing if I really wanted to, and create a vector chameleon. And you know what? I might just do it on my free time. So if this leaves you inspired to do something yourself and make some really cool vector art, share it with the library. And with that said, we'll see you in the next one. Take care.